The discovery. Dr. Sarah Chen never expected to make history on a routine survey mission. The research vessel Horizon glided silently through the Kuiper Belt, its advanced sensors probing the darkness for potential mining sites. As the ship's lead xenorchaeologist, Sarah spent most missions analyzing space rocks and disappointed investors. But today was different. Dr. Chen to the bridge immediately. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. Sarah was already running, her heart pounding against her ribs. The initial sensor readings had shown something impossible, a perfect geometric structure hidden within a seemingly ordinary asteroid. The bridge hummed with tension as Sarah burst through the doors. The main view screen showed a massive crystalline object, roughly pyramidal in shape, embedded in the asteroid's core. Its surface gleamed with an inner light that pulsed in regular patterns. "Please tell me I'm not the only one seeing this," Sarah whispered, her eyes fixed on the display. The structure's surface was covered in intricate patterns that defied natural formation. "Definitely artificial," Rodriguez confirmed, his usually steady voice tinged with awe. "And according to our scans, it's at least 50,000 years old." The crew of 30 aboard the Horizon knew they were witnessing something unprecedented in human history. Humanity had spread throughout the solar system, established colonies on Mars and Venus, but never found concrete evidence of alien intelligence. Until now. "Getting some unusual energy readings," announced Dr. Marcus Webb, their physicist. His hands flew across the holographic controls. "Whatever it is, it's active. And I think—" He paused, double-checking his readings. "I think it's responding to our presence." Sarah moved closer to the display, studying the patterns. They seemed familiar somehow, reminiscent of mathematical sequences she'd studied in xenorchaeology training. "Captain, we need to document everything. This could be—" Her words died as a beam of intense blue light shot from the structure, scanning the ship from bow to stern. Warning klaxons blared as the ship's systems reacted to the intrusion. "Shields are holding," reported Lieutenant Hayes from Tactical. "But that beam, it's not just scanning us. It's transmitting something." The ship's AI translated the incoming signal. "Beacon activated. Species capability assessment initiated. Warning. Class 3 civilization detected. Initiating Protocol Omega." The structure's pulsing grew stronger, its light shifting from blue to a deep crimson. The asteroid around it began to crack and dissolve, revealing more of the alien device. "Multiple energy signatures detected," Hayes shouted. "Something's coming through." Space itself seemed to tear open around them, reality twisting as massive shapes emerged from what appeared to be holes in the fabric of space-time. They were ships, but unlike anything human eyes had ever seen, organic-looking vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Full reverse. Get us out of here," Rodriguez ordered, but it was too late. The alien ships had already surrounded them, their massive forms dwarfing the horizon. A new message flooded their communication system. "Humans of Sol System, you have activated the Sentinel beacon. Your civilization has been deemed sufficiently advanced to be of interest. Prepare for evaluation." Sarah watched in horror as more ships continued to emerge. "What have we done?" she whispered. The alien vessels moved with impossible grace, forming a complex geometric pattern around the horizon. Their surfaces rippled like liquid metal, reforming into configurations that hurt the human eye to look at directly. "All hands, battle stations," Rodriguez commanded. Though everyone knew their weapons would be useless against technology this advanced. "Dr. Chen, any insights? Anything in your research that might help us understand what we're dealing with?" Sarah's mind raced through years of theoretical xenorchaeology studies. "Captain, if I'm interpreting this correctly, this isn't first contact. This is a test, and how we respond in the next few moments might determine the fate of our entire species." As if confirming her words, the alien ships began to emit a low-frequency hum that resonated through the horizon's hull. The crew watched, helpless but determined, as humanity's first encounter with alien intelligence unfolded around them. They didn't know it yet, but this moment would mark the beginning of humanity's greatest challenge, and potentially its finest hour. The game was about to begin, and the stakes were nothing less than the future of human civilization. The resistance. The news of the Horizons encounter spread across Earth and its colonies like wildfire. Within hours, the skies above every major human settlement were filled with the impossible ships of the evaluators, as they came to be known. Their message was broadcast simultaneously across all communication channels. Your species will be tested. Your response will determine your fate. General Maya Patel stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center, watching holographic displays of the alien vessels positioning themselves around Earth's major population centers. 20 years of military service hadn't prepared her for this moment. They haven't fired a shot, she observed, addressing the hastily assembled crisis committee. But they've completely neutralized our defensive capabilities. The aliens had demonstrated this by simply shutting down every weapons system on Earth, with a pulse of energy that seemed to ignore all known laws of physics. Dr. Chen, now serving as humanity's lead xenological advisor, stepped forward. The Horizons encounter had aged her visibly. They're not here to destroy us, at least not immediately. This is an evaluation, but not the kind we initially thought. Screens around the room showed scenes from across the globe. The evaluators had begun their tests, seemingly random actions that demanded human response. In Mumbai, they created a gravity-free zone covering 20 square kilometers. In Sydney, they transformed the harbor water into a crystalline substance that began growing exponentially. Outside Armstrong Base on Luna, they initiated what appeared to be a controlled solar flare headed directly for the settlement. They're testing our problem-solving abilities, Dr. Marcus Webb interjected, joining the discussion via hologram from his lab in Geneva. Each challenge is uniquely designed to test different aspects of human capability and cooperation. General Patel's eyes narrowed as she processed this information. Then we give them a show they'll never forget. Humanity didn't come this far by backing down from challenges. The response began immediately. In Mumbai, urban engineers and physics students collaborated to create a network of magnetic tethers, allowing people to navigate the gravity-free zone and even turning it into an impromptu disaster response training ground. Sydney's crystalline problem was tackled by a combination of marine biologists and material scientists who discovered the growth could be controlled using specific sound frequencies. But it was the Luna situation that truly demonstrated humanity's potential. With only 30 minutes before the artificial solar flare would hit, the Armstrong Base team devised an ingenious solution. They repurposed the base's water reclamation systems to create a massive electromagnetic shield, using the moon's natural magnetic field as an amplifier. The evaluators are watching everything, Dr. Chen reported, studying data streams from around the solar system. Every solution, every failure, every attempt is being recorded and analyzed. What fascinated the aliens most, however, was humanity's most unexpected response, turning the tests into opportunities. The gravity-free zone became a laboratory for new construction techniques. The crystalline substance in Sydney was being studied for potential applications in computing and energy storage. Even the artificial solar flare had provided invaluable data for improving solar shield technology. But the true game-changer came from an unexpected source. Maria Gonzalez, a 16-year-old student in Buenos Aires, noticed something about the alien ship's behavior patterns. She posted her observations on the Global Response Network, a hastily assembled platform where humans worldwide shared information about the evaluators. "Look at their formation changes," her post read. "They're not random. They're teaching us something." Dr. Webb's team analyzed Maria's data and made a stunning discovery. The aliens weren't just testing humanity. They were engaged in a complex form of communication. Their ship formations, energy patterns, and even the challenges themselves formed a kind of mathematical language. "They're not just evaluating our ability to solve problems," Dr. Chen announced to the crisis committee. "They're testing our ability to understand them. And thanks to a teenager with a keen eye for patterns, we might have just found a way to communicate back. General Patel authorized an unprecedented global initiative. Every telescope, sensor array, and monitoring station was redirected to record the evaluator's movements. Supercomputers worldwide were dedicated to analyzing the patterns. Linguists, mathematicians, and scientists worked around the clock to decode what was becoming clear was an incredibly complex form of communication. As humanity rose to each new challenge, a pattern emerged. Each test was more difficult than the last, but also more revealing about the evaluator's nature and technology. They weren't just testing humanity's problem-solving abilities. They were watching how humans worked together, how they shared information, how they innovated under pressure. They want to see if we're worthy, Dr. Chen realized. Not just technologically advanced, but culturally and socially capable of joining something bigger than ourselves. The resistance wasn't about fighting back. It was about proving humanity's worth through ingenuity, cooperation, and determination. As the tests continued, Earth's population united in ways previously thought impossible. National borders became meaningless in the face of challenges that required global cooperation. But even as humanity adapted and began to understand their visitors, a greater question loomed. What would happen when the evaluation ended? And more importantly, what would it mean to pass or fail? The Alliance. The message came 3 months into the evaluation, during what humans had started calling the Great Test. It arrived not through conventional channels, but through a pattern of quantum fluctuations that only Dr. Webb's most sensitive instruments could detect. The message was simple. Others resist. Others like you. Connect. Dr. Chen sat in her makeshift office at the Global Response Center, staring at the decoded message. "They're not the only ones out there," she whispered, her hand shaking as she reached for her comm unit. "And not everyone accepts the evaluator's authority." Within hours, the crisis committee convened. General Patel's hologram flickered as she connected from the Lunar Defense Station. "Could this be another test?" she asked, her voice tight with tension. Before anyone could respond, their screens lit up with new data. The quantum signal was carrying more than just a message. It contained coordinates, technical specifications, and what appeared to be a blueprint for modifying human communication systems to access something called the resistance network. Dr. Webb's excitement was palpable even through the holographic projection. "This is incredible. They're showing us how to tap into a hidden communication network, one that apparently exists in the quantum substrate of space itself. The evaluators either don't know about it or can't access it." The decision to accept the connection was unanimous, though not without risk. Using the provided specifications, Earth's best engineers worked around the clock to modify a secure quantum communication array. What they found changed everything. They weren't alone, not by a long shot. The resistance network connected them to dozens of species across the galaxy, all at different stages of their own evaluations. Some had been under observation for what translated to centuries. Others, like humanity, were relatively new to the process. The Arcturians, a species of energy beings, had been resisting for over a millennium. The Skith, silicon-based life forms from a heavy gravity world, had developed incredible technological innovations during their centuries-long evaluation. The Meridians, a collective consciousness of aquatic organisms, had insights into the evaluator's psychology that proved invaluable. "They call themselves the Collective," explained Kittel, an Arcturian representative, their thoughts translated into comprehensible patterns by the quantum network. "They believe they have the right to judge which species are worthy of joining galactic civilization. Those who fail their tests are restricted, contained, their development artificially limited." The implications were staggering. The evaluators weren't just testing humanity, they were deciding their future right to exist as a free species. But the resistance had discovered something crucial. The evaluators' tests weren't standardized. Each species was evaluated differently. And more importantly, each species found different ways to respond. Humanity's approach. Turning challenges into opportunities and openly sharing solutions was unique. Your species adapts remarkably quickly, observed Skith Prime, the Silicon being's representative. In 3 months, you've achieved what took most of us years. Your communication networks, your global cooperation, it's unprecedented. Dr. Chen recognized the opportunity immediately. Then we share everything. Our solutions, our strategies, our failures. And in return, we learn from you, all of you. What followed was the greatest exchange of knowledge in human history. Through the quantum network, humanity gained access to scientific insights that would have taken centuries to develop independently. In return, they shared their unique approaches to problem-solving, their art, their music, their literature, their humanity. The alliance grew stronger as each species contributed its unique strengths. The Arcturians taught humanity how to manipulate quantum fields in ways that seemed like magic. The Skith shared their mastery of gravitational engineering. The Meridians offered deep insights into collective consciousness and unified decision-making. But humanity's greatest contribution wasn't technological. It was philosophical. Your species has something we've never seen before, Catal observed. You don't just adapt to challenges. You transform them into advantages. You don't just solve problems. You find opportunities in them. This uniquely human perspective began to influence the entire resistance. Species that had been fighting the evaluators for centuries began to adopt human strategies, combining them with their own strengths in new and powerful ways. General Patel, working with military strategists from a dozen alien species, began to see patterns in the evaluators' behavior that no single species had noticed before. They're not just testing us, she realized. They're following a program, a set of protocols so ancient they might not even understand them anymore. As the alliance grew stronger, a new possibility emerged, one that none of the individual species had dared to consider alone. Perhaps the time had come not just to resist the evaluation, but to challenge the very system itself. Dr. Chen stood before the assembled representatives of the resistance, her voice steady despite her nervousness. We've been playing their game by their rules, but together, we might be able to change the rules entirely. The quantum network hummed with activity as species across the galaxy considered her words. The evaluators had never faced a united response before. They had never encountered species working together, combining their strengths, sharing their knowledge. The time had come to show the evaluators that they weren't the only ones who could do the evaluating. The breakthrough. Maria Gonzalez, the teenager who first noticed patterns in the evaluators' movements, now stood before a hybrid team of human and alien scientists. At 17, she had become one of the key researchers in understanding the evaluators' underlying logic. Look at this, she said, manipulating the holographic display with practiced ease. Every test, every challenge, follows the same basic structure. It's like they're running an ancient program they can't modify. Dr. Webb nodded, his hologram flickering as he connected from the quantum lab. The Arcturians' historical data confirms it. The evaluators haven't changed their methods in over 10,000 years. They're stuck in a loop. The revelation had come from combining different species' perspectives. The Meridians' collective consciousness recognized patterns across vast timescales. The Skith's mathematical models showed underlying consistencies in the evaluators' behavior. But it was human intuition that put the pieces together. They're not just testing us, Dr. Chen realized, her eyes wide with understanding. They're testing themselves against an ancient standard. They're trapped by their own protocols. The breakthrough came in waves. First, the discovery that the evaluators' ships weren't just vessels. They were extensions of the evaluators themselves, biological mechanical hybrids that had evolved far beyond their original forms. Their rigid behavior patterns weren't choice. They were programming, deeply embedded in their very being. The second breakthrough was even more significant. The quantum network, which the resistance used to communicate, wasn't just a hidden channel. It was the original form of faster-than-light communication, predating the evaluators themselves. They couldn't access it because they had evolved away from this more fundamental form of connection. They're like a species trapped in a technological dead end, General Patel observed during a strategic meeting with the Alliance leadership. Advanced beyond our comprehension in some ways, but fundamentally limited in others. The third breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a group of human children, playing with meridian thought patterns translated into virtual reality games, discovered that the evaluators' communication methods were actually a simplified version of the quantum network's capabilities. They're speaking the derivative language. Kittel explained, their energy form pulsing with excitement, like a cultural descendant trying to understand their ancestors' writings without knowing the original context. Working together, the Alliance species began to decipher the true nature of the sentinel beacon that the Horizon had discovered. It wasn't just an evaluation trigger. It was a key to something far more ancient and powerful. The beacon network predates the evaluators, Dr. Webb explained to the Crisis Committee. They didn't create it. They just learned to use parts of it. But together, with each species contributing their unique insights, we're beginning to understand its true purpose. The Skith's gravitational engineering revealed that the beacons were part of a vast network that spanned the galaxy. The Arcturians' energy manipulation techniques showed how to access deeper layers of their functionality. The Meridians' collective consciousness helped decode the original protocols. But it was humanity's contribution that proved crucial. We need to stop thinking of this as a test to pass, Maria suggested during a late-night research session. What if it's not about proving ourselves to them? What if it's about proving something to ourselves? Her words sparked a cascade of new insights. The Alliance began to see the evaluation system not as a judgment, but as a catalyst, a way to push species toward their full potential. The evaluators had misunderstood their own purpose, becoming wardens instead of guides. Working around the clock, teams from all species combined their knowledge to create something unprecedented, a way to communicate with the beacon network directly, bypassing the evaluators' limited understanding. Human creativity, Arcturian energy manipulation, Skith gravitational engineering, and Meridian collective consciousness all played crucial roles. The moment of truth came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Dr. Chen, General Patel, Maria, and representatives from each Alliance species gathered in the quantum lab. The modified beacon interface hummed with power, combining technologies that no single species could have developed alone. If we're right, Dr. Chen said, her hand hovering over the activation sequence, this will change everything. If we're wrong, we're no worse off than before, General Patel finished. Sometimes humanity's greatest strength is knowing when to take the risk. As they initiated the sequence, the quantum network lit up with activity. Across the galaxy, every member of the Alliance held their breath, watching as humanity prepared to challenge not just the evaluators, but the very foundations of galactic civilization. The interface activated, and for a moment, everything seemed to stop. Then, deep within the quantum substrate of space itself, something ancient began to wake up. The reckoning. The ancient consciousness that awakened through the beacon network wasn't what anyone expected. It didn't communicate in words or even direct thoughts, but in possibilities, showing the Alliance visions of what could be, what once was, and what might become. It's beautiful, Dr. Chen whispered, tears streaming down her face as the quantum interface filled their minds with images of a galaxy united not by force or judgment, but by understanding and growth. The evaluators noticed immediately. Their ships, previously arranged in their usual geometric patterns above Earth and other evaluated worlds, began to move in ways no one had seen before. They were responding to something that, for the first time in millennia, they couldn't control or understand. They're scared, Maria realized, watching the patterns of their movement. This is completely outside their protocols. The ancient consciousness revealed the truth. The evaluators were never meant to be judges. They were meant to be guides, helping young civilizations join a vast galactic community. But somewhere in their evolution, they had lost their way. becoming rigid and controlling, turning a process of growth into one of judgment and restriction. General Patel watched as evaluator ships across the galaxy began to gather. They're preparing for a response. Whatever we do next, we need to do it fast. The Alliance had anticipated this. Teams across multiple species had prepared for this moment, each contributing their unique strengths to a plan that would have been impossible for any one civilization alone. The Arcturians used their energy manipulation to amplify the beacon network signal. The Skith's gravitational engineering created corridors of stable spacetime, allowing instant communication across the galaxy. The Meridian's collective consciousness helped process and distribute the vast amount of information flowing through the network. And humanity. Humanity did what it did best. It adapted, innovated, and brought people together. "We're not here to fight you," Dr. Chen broadcast through the quantum network, her message reaching every evaluator ship in the galaxy. "We're here to remind you of who you were meant to be." Through the ancient consciousness, they showed the evaluators their own history, how they had once been guides and teachers, helping species reach their potential rather than judging their worth. The rigid protocols that now govern their behavior were never meant to be chains, but guidelines for growth. The response was immediate and dramatic. Some evaluator ships began to change, their forms shifting as if awakening from a long sleep. Others remained rigid, resistant to change. The galaxy watched as the evaluators faced their own evaluation. "They have to choose," Catal observed, their energy form flickering with emotion. "Just as we all did. Growth or stagnation, change or resistance." The next few hours were tense as evaluator ships across the galaxy made their choices. Some joined the Alliance, their ancient knowledge finally freed from the constraints of rigid protocols. Others retreated to unknown regions of space, unwilling or unable to change. But the true victory wasn't in defeating the evaluators, it was in what came after. The Alliance, strengthened by its success, began to transform. The quantum network, once a tool of resistance, became the foundation of a new galactic community. Species that had been isolated for millennia began to connect, share, and grow together. Humanity, despite being one of the youngest species in the Alliance, found itself in a unique position. Their ability to adapt, to see opportunities and challenges, to bring different perspectives together. These proved to be exactly what the galaxy needed as it entered a new era. Maria stood with Dr. Chen and General Patel on the observation deck of the new Alliance Center, built where the original Horizon had made its discovery. Below them, teams of humans worked alongside representatives from dozens of species, including reformed evaluators who had chosen to embrace change. "We thought we were being tested," Maria said, watching as a group of children, human and alien alike, played in the gravity-free zone that had once been a challenge to overcome. "But really, we were learning how to test ourselves, to push our own boundaries." Dr. Chen smiled, remembering the fear and uncertainty of those first days. "That's the real breakthrough, isn't it? Not the technology or the ancient secrets, but understanding that growth comes from cooperation, not competition. From lifting each other up, not judging who deserves to rise." General Patel nodded, her eyes on the stars where evaluator ships had once hung like pending doom. "And the best part? This is just the beginning. We have an entire galaxy of possibilities to explore, and this time, we're doing it together." As if in response, the quantum network hummed with activity. Countless species sharing ideas, solving problems, creating something new together. The ancient consciousness that had awakened through the beacon network remained, not as a ruler or judge, but as a reminder of what was possible when different minds came together in harmony. The story of humanity's great test had become something more. A story of transformation, not just for Earth, but for an entire galaxy. And in the end, the greatest discovery wasn't the alien artifacts or advanced technology, but the simple truth that had guided humanity from its very beginning. That our greatest strength lies not in our ability to stand alone, but in our power to stand together.